Good afternoon and welcome to Padre's Ponderings from the chapel.
Welcome to you.
I know. I was just thinking, I don't think I've been in this seat since Easter.
Well, we've had all kind of people in the seat, though.
I know, which is a wonderful thing.
There you go.
Yeah, you interviewed Bradley and John and
Bishop Jones, that's right. We had all the chaplains that week, and that was some week. Whew.
that was big doings.
And I really appreciate the fact that we could pull that off, all the staff and everybody. At the same time, we were maintaining everything else that was going on, and running a special summer program, and a soccer camp, and all. It's a lot going on, but we're blessed with a great staff to work with that.
Yeah, that was really a huge takeaway for me. Was we really pulled off excellence that week across the board.
That's right. It wasn't just make it happen.
Right.
We did it with excellence.
Excellent. And Charlie, who's running tech right now, was a huge part of that. And the behind the scenes, getting all the musicians, the music, and everything prepared, and the slides and tech and all of that on top of.
Yeah, and our role was behind the scenes. They were the ones that were doing all the stuff, and to get Dave ordained and John ordained.
I know that was quite the weekend.
And all that is on the web page, on the videos. People can see all of that, and there's I'm sure pictures on Facebook and all the rest of it. So what you got in your hands today?
We were busy this morning preparing packets for our Wednesday night series. And that's going to be at Cross School. Starts tomorrow night, every Wednesday through July.
So that's 4 Wednesdays? 5 Wednesdays?
Five.
And what's going to happen?
So the clergy's taking turns doing the teaching session, and it's all summer discipleship. So tomorrow night is the first session, and that's Nathan. And they have just lots of information, kind of fill in the blanks types of things, and then discussion questions for the tables. We have 170, as of 5 minutes ago, we have 171 people signed up. That's 28 children, 7 youth, and 136 adults.
Whoa. Now this is an adult book.
This is for the adults. The kids have a totally different kind of VBS type program, and then the youth are doing something similar but different for them. So every adult will get one of these, and this is for all 5 sessions.
Pretty special. Very organized.
Very organized. Clergy started working on it, talking about it February.
So it starts at 6 o'clock?
Dinner's at 6. If you're not coming for dinner, we'll start the programming like at 6:30.
6:30. Over at 8?
Our goal is to be finished by 8.
All right, so what's the meal tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night is baked ziti from downtown Delhi, salad, and cookies.
Ziti?
Baked ziti. It's good.
Could we kind of elaborate on what ziti is?
Ziti is a pasta, a tube-like pasta. Red sauce, cheese, melted. You clearly don't eat ziti very often.
No, new vocabulary word. There you go.
Hilarious.
When I was in school, coming all the way through, golly day, every week you'd have 10 vocabulary words, and invariably they were words you would never use again, but you might see them on the SAT. I don't remember seeing ziti on the SAT though, or on any of those vocabulary lists.
No, it's good. Baked ziti's good, and plentiful. It's a good meal for. Is it not ziti tomorrow, Sue? Sue's signaling to me the no.
And it's a buffet kind of deal. Wonderful. That's a great turnout in the summertime. Wednesday evenings, right here, build relationships.
We're putting tables together.
Is that a random?
We have
put
some
together?
groups that have been groups since last summer when we did Rooted together in the gym, or even before that, last winter, the winter before, we did Alpha, and some of those groups have stayed together. So they're
Wonderful.
going to be sitting together in a small group, and then we have some new people, and we're kind of putting people together.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And who's doing the youth stuff?
Becca, and I'm not sure who her volunteers are. But
And then
Becca
how-
will be doing the youth, and Betsy O'Donnell, and we have lots of volunteers for the children. Kim Clark, and there's a huge team working with nursery through 5th grade.
And do people have to sign up ahead of time for nursery and stuff?
Everybody.
Oh, well,
should
everybody
be
signs up
signed
ahead of time.
If
Okay.
you're eating. If you're not going to eat, then you can come, but we need to know who the children are for signups.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
So when you get through with that, what?
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Well, we're gonna be
we're always
present.
looking down the road.
Yeah, no, we are.
But now, while this is going on, we got river baptism. Now we got
we've got a lot of stuff.
We got our regular
Right.
services
So
and routine.
July 20th is river baptism. We already have sign-ins coming in for that. That's going to be at 3:30 in the afternoon. I had Steve Kaiser and several people checking. Here's Sue. Is it baked ziti? Broccoli. Baked ziti and broccoli, not salad. Thank you, Sue. I double-checked the tides because we were given the date and the time, golly, 6 months ago, and things can kind of shift a little bit. So I got confirmation that 3:30 on Sunday afternoon, July the 20th, is the perfect time to be in the river in front of the bluff.
Wonderful.
So we have families signed up. We have new people joining to be baptized.
Now we're still running the morning prayer, evening prayer, compline. All that is going on a regular basis.
That's a regular rhythm of our
Yeah.
Church
Now,
life.
run through that one time for me.
Monday night, 9:15 on Facebook is Compline. So it's evening.
And that rotates around. Different people doing that.
Different people do that. John Collins did it last night. Then on Tuesday morning, right here this morning, we had 30 people in here
In
from
person.
staff and lots of people from the parish. We're in here for morning prayer together. That's every Tuesday in the chapel. The chapel stays open if people want to stay and pray independently after morning prayer. Then on Thursday morning at the historic campus at 9 o'clock, we have morning prayer, open to anybody who wants to join.
Now, is the
Thursday-
leadership for those morning prayer in-person services, does that rotate around?
Rotates around.
Okay.
Compline, Thursday night at 9:15 on Facebook as well. And again, sometimes it's clergy. It's usually clergy. Sometimes Charlie will pop in and do it too. So that rotates around.
So if you can't make a Sunday worship service, those worship services, chapel and cross-border online. If you can't make a weeknight service, they're on Facebook, something like that, you can tune in. If you're on
For
vacation or whatever, you know.
And as a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, I think Bennett and his sister-in-law did Compline from vacation, from their family vacation.
So they zoom that in?
On Facebook.
Boy, the technology opens all kind of doors, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Wow.
And those you don't have to watch live. They are live, but a lot of people go and watch it Monday night at 9:15. You might be asleep, but you wake up in the morning and you hop on and you rewatch it. And it's morning prayer, Compline, straight from the Book of Common Prayer. That's
Yep.
what we follow.
Wonderful.
So this morning the reading was from Judges.
So what's the biggest thing coming up in the fall?
Biggest, I don't know about biggest. We have confirmation. We always have confirmation September, which coincides with the bishop's visit in October. So that's always a big thing. Small groups will keep going. Some small groups will start. New groups will start. Advent.
School starts.
And school starts. Can you believe this? Teachers come back across schools July 31st.
Really?
Yes. There's something about just seeing the word July, even though it's the last day of July.
July 3rd? Really?
It's just kind of, painful.
Wow.
Yeah, so school must start like August 6th or something like that for the kids. So right after, so our last Wednesday night in July, we will leave the tables and everything set up because the teachers will come in the next morning.
That is stunning.
I know.
But when I was in that world, it wasn't that way at all. Not at all. But
We didn't start until what?
you didn't start till after Labor Day. It was back,
Or the end of
and that was
August.
whether you lived in town or out in the country. That's the way it was because so much. Well, where we were,
Agrarian, right.
we were in Sumter County, you know, and everything in the city and in the county was all around agriculture. And so you didn't start because families and children were all involved with working on the farm. And we got out at 1:30. We started at 8 and got out at 1:30 just because the children worked. You know, and there wasn't any piddling around and go home
I remember
and do a
the
machine.
year.
People worked.
Yeah, we got out at 1:30 or 1:40, something like that.
Yeah, it was 1:30 start. Then we eased it back.
Eased it.
Eased it
And
back.
I remember that year that we moved to 2:20. It was like, oh my gosh, that was an eternity. But now it's like 2:20
Yeah, yeah.
because school don't get out till 3:30.
But you know, there was something about that. The young people grew up working on the farm, and you started doing stuff early on. You know, and gosh, I remember your brother was driving around on the farm in a pickup truck and stuff like that when he's 10, 12 years. As soon as he could reach the pedals, you know. Now he wasn't on the highway,
Right.
but there was lots of dirt roads on the farms. He was doing stuff there, running a hay rake, all that. You know, and there was this level of responsibility and maturity that came with that. That somehow or another is not there now. Life was oriented outside, not inside, not at all. But you know, we're in a different world now. And but wow, July 31st.
July 31st. So, and they start July 31st with a service on the historic campus to kick off the year, and then we provide lunch for them that day. It's kind of an annual thing that we do to welcome the teachers back.
And we got to one of the, you know, across schools is a huge ministry for us, and we got 6 people in the faith formation program now, and every child's hearing the gospel every day. Gosh, we've come such a long way. That's a big operation over there now. 700 plus children, 100 plus staff people. Phew. The outreach opportunities there are immense, immense. I just saw a truck go by out there. They're working on the columbarium.
Yes, and there are pictures now on the chapel window that talk about, we printed off, Lisa Wilson created a kind of a graphic of the renderings because people have been asking, what is a columbarium? That's not common vernacular. What is a columbarium? And what is it going to look like? So we have a kind of a drawing, rendering over there to explain it on the window when people come and they're like, what's going on? It's coming together. It's taken much longer than we thought, but that is the way of the world. With building, things always take longer.
Did I tell you about Lisa Cerisi on the bluff?
Oh, yes, that's
With
a
the
good
dog.
story. Terrible.
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 But a good example of it's just not common
Yeah.
in our
We got
world.
We have a bluff. We have a columbarium on the bluff out there. It's real nice.
Under the trees.
Under the trees, pine straw, little plaques all around, and there's a marker on the big thing that says this is a special holy place. So Lisa Cerisi's coming around the front of the church, and a lady's walking her dog, and she's got that dog up there defecating in the columbarium.
In the bush, like
In the columbarium.
where the ashes are buried.
Yeah. And so Lisa called out and she said, that's a columbarium. And I said, no, it's a German Shepherd. Oh, God. But it was just the point you're making. That's one of those words.
It's a vocabulary word we don't use very often.
One of those words we don't use very often.
And people have the idea of mausoleum. So people have asked, well, are the drawers or boxes, I don't know what it would be, on the wall? They're building a fountain.
Yeah.
And no, that's not what's going to happen. But
Yeah. No, we're putting the ashes in the ground. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And someone asked recently, if you bury your ashes, can the ashes be moved?
that's a good question.
Because we live in a
Transient.
and this person, their mother is buried over there. Her ashes are buried over there,
At the bluff.
and they're going to be moving out of the blue. They're going to move somewhere,
Ooh.
and so, wanted to know, could they move the mother's ashes? And so the answer is yes. When people are cremated, it ends up in a bag, and they have a metal disc in the ashes down there that has identification of whose ashes those are. Now, when you bury the ashes, that little plastic bag just dissipates. The ashes become mixed with the dirt. But that metal tag is right there. And so you can use a little metal detector, a wand, and you pick up exactly where the ashes are. The little plate tells you they're in this area right here. Pick it up, and then the funeral home will dig it up. Now you're going to get some dirt and stuff like that in there with it. But that tag is identifying the space, is identifying where the ashes are. And then they just put them back in a box, and you can take them with you where you want to go.
Or you could leave them there.
Or you could leave them there. We've got a family that is moved out west to be near children. And now one of them is about to die, and they contacted us and said this is their only real church home. And could they come be buried back here in the columbarium? Well, you can be cremated out there.
Right.
And then come back here and bury the ashes. Right. Sure. So we did. Gosh, I bet we.
When you first came, y'all didn't do anything.
Oh no, there was none of that. Everything was full body burial.
Right.
But no, now to do a full body burial is very rare, very rare. And a part of that is we live in such a transient society. And another part of it is the expense. A cremation is about a fourth the cost of what a full body burial is. Maybe not even a fourth sometime, depending upon what's going on with it. And you spend a world of money on a full body burial. But anyway, that's another story.
Also, too, I know how long ago did our family have a family plot?
Still
Still
up
have
there.
it.
Still up there at Ascension.
But how many families, you just don't have that?
Mm-mm. But see, back in those days, people they lived and died in the same place. But that's no more.
Let me tell you what I did yesterday. This is kind of different. About once a year, typically in the summer, we clean out a closet in the parish hall. Because I don't know if you guys realize, but every time somebody comes in there, they'll drop something, leave something, put something, and things just end up in the closet, right? So there's a huge upstairs closet that we really need to utilize the space better, and it just had tons of stuff in it. So yesterday afternoon, 3 of us on staff went over and we started just digging through, right? And VBS, Sunday school curriculum going back to the late 90s. It was interesting. The different themes that were for Vacation Bible School and all of that. We found some of the original not the original artwork, but it was the cover of the cookbook when it was first created, the sign for when they first started selling the cookbooks, some sketches of the historic church, and then we found 2 boxes, and they said, "Do not throw away." So we opened up the boxes, and they were pocket prayer books, about this big. Great size to just carry around with you. Psalter, full prayer book. Tiny, tiny print.
1928.
They were the 1928 prayer book, but some of them had a copyright of like 1945. And they were stamped, the Church of the Cross, and they were stamped on the cover as well in memory of, and there were 2 different names. So Lisa Wilson loves researching and going back and trying to identify people and their story and all of that. So last night she goes home and she's got both of the names and she starts Googling and trying to figure out who this person was. And it was just really fascinating. So she traced one of them back to a Civil War namesake of a Civil War general or something who was in this area, and his grandson that was named after him and ended up living in this area. And so she's going to have to come on here one day and share kind of the story of these prayer books.
That'd be a great idea. You know, this area, particularly the historic campus, and that bluff particularly, because the bluff was there and the dock was there before the church was there. This area has linkage that goes way back.
Yeah. So I told her, I said, you're going to have to go and share this with the historical committee, although they might already have the information. But that was just kind of a little treasure in the midst of a lot of trash. But
Yeah, the church, the historic church was built 1854 is when they started that construction. But there were people having worship services starting in 1727. That's a long time ago. And they moved around different places.
And there were 3 parishes that were kind of connected, and the priests would rotate around, I think. So it was St. Luke's.
Well, St. Luke's wasn't there yet. St. Luke's, this was called St. Luke's Parish.
Right.
Like an area
Right.
was a parish.
Like, yes.
An area was a parish.
But St. Luke's was the name of that. Chapel, Cross Chapel is what we were in Bluffton. And then there was another one. Zion. Is that a little bit further inland?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But on 170, that St. Luke's little
Yes,
Methodist church,
yes.
that was Church of the Cross at one time.
Okay, so then that must
That
be
was
one of
sold
the connectors.
way back there. Yeah.
So interesting.
So there's, those linkages run that prayer book back down through there. There would be all kinds of linkages, historical linkages. For somebody to run that rabbit down would be really interesting. And
Lisa likes to do it.
she likes to run rabbits. There you go. So,
She does.
that would be very interesting. There have been lots of historical people, connections to history in this area, lots of them. So it'd be very, very interesting to follow. And, something like the prayer book would be an entree into that. And we've got the Historical Society has some historical records and service books and all that. So historical people, they love all that too, see. So they would get them hooked up together. Be great. Be great.
So that was a fun kind of change of pace. A little treasure trove. A lot of trash, but a lot of treasure as well.
Trash.
Yes, literally trash.
Yesterday's treasure. Today's
At
treasure.
one time, yes. Those papers were.
That's what God's goods functions on.
Right. Well, I have a table full of stuff to go there.
Everything at God's goods was somebody's treasure at one time.
Right.
And now they've moved past that and treasure's redefined.
So some of that will end up at God's goods.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So what you want to know from me? I've
What
been
are you-
asking you all kind of
I
questions.
know. What are you reading now? I haven't heard of what you're reading.
Poems of the Ascent.
Okay.
Poems of the Ascent.
Going up to Jerusalem.
It's about a man's faith journey.
Who is
A.
it?
Stanley Gardner,
Okay.
big guy at the seminary where Nathan and Charlie and all them
Charlie,
were
have
up
you
there.
read that?
ESJ is what they call him up there. There's a building named after him.
Okay.
They used to love to go there because snacks were free. They go in. Yep. So I'm reading that, and I'm reading Ripples of Battles. That's an interesting book there. And it's work. The one I'm in now is Okinawa, and how the Battle of Okinawa and the strategies that were employed and the lessons that were learned, how that has been reflected in the modern warfare. The numbers of people that died in that were just stunning. I'm 2/3 of the way through that. The Battle of Shiloh, I did before that. Nathan Bedford Forrest,
That was up.
how they followed that was where he rose to fame. That was really was the high, they said was the golden years of the Civil War. And how that took him to fame, and then how his history after that reflected the lessons of Shiloh. Amazed at how those things they reflect in our future, and we don't even realize it. But that's a very interesting book. It's one of those things where you live life forwards, but you understand it backwards. But very seldom do we go back and look at where did all this come from? Why is it that way? Where are things rooted? It's kind of like what you're talking about with the people in the prayer books and all that. Where did this idea come from? How did we learn that? How did battlefield strategies change so? I mean, just from that idea in the Revolutionary War of people lining up on each side and just walking straight into the musket fire. Whoa.
That was a lot of the Civil War too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So you get into Bedford Forrest, and he's a cavalry guy, and they're bumping here and there, and they're all around, and how that dynamic changed things. But it was just real fascinating. And then working on sermons.
I know. So last week you changed up the preaching schedule a little bit,
There you
which I
go.
really like.
Don't change it again, too.
Okay. That's good. It's good to be flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last week, John Collins preached his first sermon at 5:28, and then he did it at 8 o'clock last week. You preached at 10. And then, are you here?
Are you a secret Christian is what I preached.
Right. Where are
This
you? Are
past
you
week.
preaching this coming weekend? Okay. Cross Point.
Yep. And I'll be preaching that same sermon there. And then I'm working on the one coming up after that. Working on John's Gospel and the God of the Unexpected. I think it's going to be pretty neat. And I'm working out of the 9th chapter of John's Gospel and the man who's born blind. And all through John's Gospel, God has been revealed as the God of the unexpected. So, and I think that'll turn out. I hope the Holy Spirit will fluff it up and it'll turn out pretty good. Hoping so. But that's about miracles, the unexpected miracles and all that. And there's one of everybody wants a miracle, but nobody wants to be in the place where they need a miracle. When you're so far down, the only way out is a miracle. Nobody wants to be there. See, we all want miracles are a nice idea, but we don't want to be in that place where we absolutely need a miracle, because that means your circumstances are out of control. you've lost it. You can't save yourself. You can't redeem your situation. You need a miracle. But that's another story. But I'm working on that sermon too. And I like doing that. I like working on sermons and the wordsmithing of it. And saying a lot, but condensing it down so
That's
you're not rambling and all that kind of stuff. And I try to get down to 2,200 words, and I'm at 2,340 something now in this one, so I got to cut some more. But you know, one of the things you start writing a sermon, you fall in love with your own words.
You're like,
really,
oh, that's good.
that's good. I don't want to chop that. Whoa.
So it's almost a painful process.
Yeah, I mean because
You're like, this is good. I can keep going.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind that the people cannot absorb more than their behinds can endure. And they're sitting there in that pew.
Leadership lesson 101 today.
That's a note. You got to make a note of that. So you
People cannot absorb
more than their behinds can endure.
Okay.
See, if they start
sitting for 35 minutes.
Yeah, I mean they've tuned you out way back down the line down there. So you're better to have them focused and listening than to run them to the point where they get tired. Yeah, till they start fidgeting and all that. You lost them then. So anyway, that's kind of an old maxim there to note down somewhere.
So
but it's true.
if you just keep going, then you make it like a 2-part sermon.
Oh yeah. You know, all of it might be really worthwhile, but it may not bless people in one sitting. So that is what it is. So anyway, I'm working on 140 something extra words I got down there, and it's, I'm down to the point now where you're cutting pearls, so I got to be really careful.
On Tuesdays in July, today was our first one. Some of the women on staff were doing a Bible study together called Gospel on the Ground, and she's a professor and at a Christian college, and she also leads tours to Israel. Probably not right now, but has for like 10 years. And so we're digging through the book of Acts together. And this morning was our first one, and she talks about stringing together pearls.
That's one of the definitions or understandings of what parables are. Stringing pearls.
And one nugget that she shared in the teaching, we watch the videos beforehand, and then we meet and discuss for about an hour after morning prayer on Tuesdays. And one of the kind of nuggets that she shared was that typically, or always, people would choose the rabbi that they would follow. Jesus chose his followers. He chose his disciples. And she gave this example, which I thought was pretty good, a good way for us to grasp it. She said it would almost be like Tiger Woods seeing you on the driving range and coming up to you and saying, you have a pretty good swing. Why don't you come and follow me? I think you could be like me. Now, if that happened to my husband on the golf course today.
Oh, man. He'd love that, wouldn't he?
But that idea of they dropped it and they left, and they followed. Like, who wouldn't say, okay. Michael Jordan sees you at the park at a pickup game. You've got a pretty good shot. Why don't you come in?
That's great.
And then the other one she gave was Aretha Franklin. Here's you singing in the shower. Back in the day. And she said, why don't you come and hang out with me, and you can follow me in my footsteps. I thought that was pretty good.
Yep.
Because sometimes we read scripture and we just like, oh, yep, he went to him and said, follow me. but the context
more
of it,
more to it than that one.
the context of it was different. So.
Or Tina Turner with her dancers. You know,
Man.
she had those
She was
three ladies, I think it was,
something.
behind her. They were with her for a long time. But man, they could do it now. Yeah,
I saw
they had
her in
all those
concert.
moves and everything. You saw her live?
I saw her live in Kansas City. Golly. She would have been 70 at the time, at least. It was unbelievable. You just like, how is that even possible? She's doing all the dance. Like, she didn't stop for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So,
So
she was
those
something.
women right behind her, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
She had more than two.
Yeah, I want to say there was
At that
3 or 4
point,
of
there
them
was a lot
dressed
of
in
them.
that in
And then-
black and all
and
that.
they always had
Oh
the
yeah, they were
fringe
moving.
and stuff.
They were moving.
Yeah.
Come and dance with me. Yep. Wonderful.
All right. This week, you will be preaching at Cross Point.
Yep.
So come to services. John Collins will be preaching on this campus for the first time. And Dave Fisher, I believe, is on the historic campus. So great to have 2 newly ordained people in the pulpit.
Yep.
And they'll be celebrating as well.
That's right.
Which,
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and it really is a neat thing to see the next generation of fellows coming along. Really, really is.
we are very,
Quite a
very
joy.
blessed for sure
Quite a joy.
with our clergy. So, all right, don't forget the food bank. Last week, our staff, we closed the office on Monday, and all of us who were in town went over to the food bank and we volunteered together. That was a wonderful experience for all of us because we don't typically get to do that on a Monday. And they stressed, we need cereal. And that shelf last Monday was empty, so I've seen a lot of cereal coming in this week. But if you can think about it, if you're out and about, grab some boxes of cereal for the food bank. You can drop it off at the chapel anytime during the week or at any of our weekend services, or drop off on Saturday at the Mission Mall for just a drop off too. So really important ministry there. I couldn't believe getting there before 9 o'clock and people are already sitting in cars just waiting for the line to open up at 12. So thank you for
waiting
your
for 3 hours.
3 hours, sit and wait. So thank you for your donations. That's just a tremendous gift to our community and such a blessing to so many. And the volunteers are a blast. They are so much fun.
That's a hard-working group of people too, isn't it?
It is just, it's wonderful to see their sense of community and praying together and connection, and everybody's
And you got the God's goods part in there
Everybody's
too,
smiling.
and
God's gifts. Yvonne Broadhurst. They were passing out Bibles, and
weren't you
praying.
amazed at the amount of food moving through there?
It's crazy.
About 3 tons a week.
And there's a crew at the food bank where their job is fruits and vegetables. So they will get in cases of fresh vegetables and fruit, and they're digging through every piece of it and taking out the rotten and saving the good. So that's a whole shift right there, are people that pick out rotten fruit and then pull aside the ones to donate, to give away.
So did you
huge.
pick up some brown bananas?
I was not in the fruits and veggies section. I was in the shopping section where you get
Oh,
a shopping
that's the area
cart.
you
It
love,
was
isn't
fun.
it?
It was fun. You get a shopping cart with 2 bags, and they have just a really well-oiled machine, and you go through and you shop. You get so many cans of tuna, so many cans of canned chicken, pasta sauce, and you just go all the way around. And then there's a system.
Did they have any ziti in there?
Crazy. Yes.
Did they really?
They had ziti.
Oh,
You too can have ziti tomorrow if you come to the Wednesday night teach-in.
good Lord deliver us.
You're just not a pasta person.
No, I'm
The
not
only
really.
pasta we had growing up was spaghetti, homemade
Yep,
spaghetti.
That's it. Macaroni and cheese.
Well,
That would be pasta, wouldn't it? Yeah. And your mama would make that macaroni and cheese, and she would use spaghetti noodles in there sometimes.
your mom started that. So good.
loaded up with cheese, Velveeta and all that.
So good, so good. All right, so don't forget the food bank, and we'll see you. If you want to sign up for Wednesday night, go ahead and do that. Really, by today, we've got to get food count in and get groups organized. So, but we hope to see a lot of you there. Looking forward to that. I'm sure we'll be posting lots of pictures on social media about that. Look for the e-news on Wednesday or Thursday at 3, and then we'll see you at weekend services.
Blessings to you. Got a hug for you when I see you.
Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to
Thanks
God.